Hi, everybody. I think we are live on the air right now. This is the ThunderQuack podcast network spoilercast for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And I'm one of your hosts today. Oh, hold on a second. My other window. Gotta mute that. That always throws me. Okay, what was I saying? My name is Curtis Findley. I am the host of the Pullbox Podcast, which is a graphic novel book club talking about graphic novels of all sorts. I'm also the host of the Epic Marvel Podcast, and that is another podcast about we dive into little chunks of the Marvel universe, little bits and pieces of it here and there, and go into detail about that. And so you can check us out at epicmarvelpodcast.com. And who else do I have with me today? Andy, why don't you go first?
Well, my name is Andrew Bach. I do the social media for some of the ThunderQuack podcast account, and I host a Flash podcast, which is outside the network, but we're you can say we're almost like a sister podcast to the Quiver the Green Arrow podcast. So yeah,
welcome.
Thank you.
And Paul.
Hey, I'm Paul. I'm with the Talking Time Lords podcast, which is all about Doctor Who. I'm actually kind of looking forward to talking about our episode that I'm going to get to watch tonight. So I'm kind of excited about that. And we're here to talk all things Guardians of the Galaxy today.
Yeah, that's right. Now, if you haven't seen this movie yet, then you may not want to listen to us talking about this because we will go into all sorts of spoilers. That's why it's called a spoiler cast. This is just your fair warning right now. Get out while you can, because there are actually some pretty good spoilers here that we're going to be discussing. We might have a few people pop by later on in the show. I'm not sure if they're going to pop by or not, but if they join the call, then we'll introduce them at that point and they can join the conversation. The way I'd like to lay out today's talk is I'd like to kind of just have a general, what are your thoughts? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What worked? What didn't work? And then I want to leave kind of our predictions for the future. I'd like to leave the all of the post-credit scenes for the end. We'll kind of deal with them a little bit later. So first of all, we'll discuss just what are your general thoughts about this one. You can compare it to the last movie, and you can talk about what worked, what didn't work. Who wants to go first here?
Andy, you want to go first?
Okay. I will say that the trailers for this film did not. I mean, they were fine, but I wasn't like really like OMG Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 when going to this film, because I was like, it's like, I mean, what's really, really different about this one? So I've also, it has some weaknesses compared to the first one. I feel that, I mean, it's very up and down for me, because there's some things that they did in this film that they did a lot better than the first one, but then there were things that they did in this film that they didn't do as well in the first one. So personally, I really enjoyed the film as a whole, but I also think that you can see some of the flaws this time around than the first one, because you have so much you have to play with, and it's a longer film too. So I mean, I will say I do think I enjoyed this film better than, for example, than Doctor Strange, that was the last Marvel film to come out before this one. So yeah, I mean,
How did you like the first one? The first Guardians?
The first one was just so like fresh and new to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It felt like this is not, a lot of people will say that the MCU is very, bright and jokey and colorful or whatever. But I feel this kind of took it to a different level with the Guardians one, and it was, it wasn't really something we'd seen before in the MCU. It felt different. It wasn't just like, we're just taking the Avengers but putting them in space and then giving them a raccoon. But it just felt like they did something refreshing. But then with the second one, I kind of feel like, okay, you're kind of almost depending on everything that the first one did and not really thinking too much outside the box. And even if there were some really cool things that I didn't see coming, I feel like it's not too different from Guardians 1. In the sequel. So, and I've only seen the film once, but I kind of thought about it really, really much in the past few weeks since I saw it, and it kind of felt how different like if you take aside all the new characters and some of the new storylines, it almost feels like a similar movie in some ways, while also being original too.
You mean like the plot you thought was kind of the same?
Not the plot, because I mean the plot was a lot different, but I kind of felt there was. I felt maybe depending so much on old school music became a little bit too much. I'm kind of like, okay, well, yay, but it's at the same time let's not recycle this too much, even though it's different songs. And I know I'm sounding crazy probably by now, but I know for some reason it kind of felt like it's not too different from the first one, even though like I still enjoy this one a lot.
Right. Paul, what did you think?
Well, actually, one of the things that I actually did like about it was the fact that it felt like that you could take these two and put them together and just have a tag in the middle that says, 6 months later or whatever, and it actually felt like all one big movie. Now, that being said, yeah, you do want to take things to a different level, and you do want to have a different kind of tone and everything, and kind of a growth to each story. But I do know that I was reading different things online before I ever went to watch this, and one of the things that I specifically saw that it said was this is intended to be a direct continuation of the first movie, and it's intended to be something that actually happens 6 or 7 months after the original film, because there's going to be a 4-year gap between this story and the next story of Infinity War. And there's a specific reason as to why it was done that way. And so I can kind of understand a little bit why the tone and everything was so close to the first one, because they want to have that transitional tone and everything come in Infinity Wars. However, at the same time, I can see some cracks in this, in some of the pacing, maybe in a little bit of the storytelling, but overall I really, really love this movie. I really felt like that it was fun and entertaining and action-packed, and some people are not going to like the fact that it's got more humor in this one than the original, which it does, but at the same time, I felt like that they were looking at this one as a situation of, okay, the first movie we were kind of feeling it out to see just how much humor we could get away with, and this one we're just gonna kind of let loose and just put what we feel like feels good in this movie,
Yeah, I felt I left the theater kind of feeling meh kind of about it. It was and I know I'm kind of in the minority. Everybody I see online says that it was the best, but I felt, and also that they were trying to get away with a lot more humor and such, but it fell into a typical sequel trap where they were like, well, the audience really loved this, and this, so we'll give even more this, and this, even more retro music, even more Groot, even more humor. It's like, and I felt like it was just a little unbalanced. I loved the first one. The first one had a perfect balance of all that stuff, absolutely. But this one I felt got a little unbalanced because of that, and because of that, I felt like the story didn't really even take off until about an hour into it, because they kept just wasting time with jokes and with humor and these situations that they would get themselves in that didn't really move the story forward. I mean, the writing was smart in the fact that later on in the movie you did find out that everything does tie together in the end, but it just kept me kept me going through the first half of this movie saying, when does the story start?
Mm-hmm.
So it was things like that. That was one of my issues with it.
See, that's one of the reasons I say what I did about pacing and stuff, because there were actually things that were in this movie that I felt like could have been in the first movie as a setup for this movie.
Yeah. Oh, I think we lost Paul. This happens sometimes with Paul. He disappears. Did I lose Andy too?
No, I'm here. I'm here. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
you're
just.
here too.
I don't want to interrupt. It's something because I don't know. Because I'm used to having a microphone and not being on screen, so I don't even know what to do. I'm like, should I sit still? Not doing anything. But I guess I came off as like dead, like almost.
Yeah, I thought you were frozen as well. Okay, well, we'll wait. Paul will have to. I'm sure this happens every once in a while with him. His computer will reboot on him or something. So we will just wait for him to come back. But we can continue the discussion.
Yeah, I want to
I'm
follow up with what you said about how it almost felt like it took an hour for the plot to actually begin.
yeah.
I feel the same way because I rarely do this in cinemas, but I picked up my phone just to see how long it had gone. I'm like,
That's not a good sign.
no, it's like I've never done that with a film, any comic book film. I looked up, I'm like, only 1 hour in. What the hell is going on? Like I look at my friends, I'm like,
Right.
just 1 hour. This is just 1 hour,
Yeah.
and it felt like, I mean, I will admit that I laughed, laugh out loud at pretty much all the jokes almost.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but it was like, afterwards when the laughter was over, I kind of felt, okay, what are we doing now? Why is it? Because at first, I did not know who, okay, who is their villain? Who is, what are they
Right.
doing right now? Because right now they're talking so much about things and
Yeah.
exposition. I'm not saying exposition is bad, but it's kind of like when the film doesn't even open up with a hint of where we're going, it kind of feels like, okay, so 1 hour of is happening.
Yeah. Well, and we're so used to, with these Marvel movies, we're so used to kind of cookie cutter screenwriting and formula and stuff. And so to have something that is so different in its pacing and the way they structure their story is quite jarring, I think. Paul, you're back with us?
Yes, sir. How much did you actually hear of what I said last time?
You were about to say movie, but then all you went said moo, and I'm like,
Okay, that was one of the reasons I was saying that the pacing could have been a little different in this, and because there were things at the beginning of this movie that I felt like should have actually been sprinkled into the last movie, so that they wouldn't have to have as much of a setup in this movie to tell the story that they wanted to tell. And speaking to what Andy was just saying, I did and didn't like the whole villain thing at the same time, because I liked the fact that they kind of kept it a little ambiguous, because that's a little bit of what they were doing in the first movie. They sort of made it like Yondu was going to be was going to be the actual villain, and then you find out that Yondu's not the actual villain, that he's just kind of a antagonist, or what you believe to be an antagonist in the first movie. And then you get to this movie, and it looks like Yondu's going to be an antagonist again, and then you find out that he's actually not going to be. It's going to be this other character that we'll get into in a minute. And then you really find out that there's actually the real villain is to be revealed in like the last third of the movie or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I like it, but I didn't like it at the same time, if you get what I'm saying, because there's sometimes that you can leave it a little bit too ambiguous,
I think that's one of the major themes in this movie and the last movie, Guardians and Galaxy in general, is what does make a hero and what does make a villain, because the line is blurred with all of these characters. Like, if you remember, they're all bad guys, they're all thieves, and they're all criminals. They all they meet in jail. That's where they form their team, right?
Right.
And that's the same with everyone we meet. It's and Nebula, is she a good person or a bad person? And then so the line, Peter Quill's part of the Ravagers, and they're all bad guys. And so it's this movie, I thought, really did explore the good and the bad. Like, we don't have that sort of altruistic hero like we get with the Avengers. There's no question about if Captain America is a hero. Although I guess Civil War tried to say that he wasn't, but
what was Civil War not trying to do, I guess.
But yeah, I mean that's an interesting theme, and I hope that it gets played out again in number 3. In fact, that was actually one of the things that I didn't like about the ending of Guardians of the Galaxy, because they changed Yondu into being a hero when I really thought that he shouldn't. Now, historically speaking, Yondu was always he was one of the first Guardians of the Galaxy. He appeared in the 60s on the team in its original form. So he traditionally has been a hero, and I wonder if they really wanted to bring that back, like redeem the character to be a hero, because he is in the comics. But they established that that Yondu physically and mentally abused Peter Quill as a child throughout his entire childhood. And as Rocket and Yondu are escaping the Ravagers, Yondu takes his new fin and his magic arrow and just slaughters everyone. We're talking about like a mass murder that killed over 100 people in like 10 minutes, right? And like relentlessly without remorse. And yeah, the Ravagers are bad guys, but a lot of these guys were his friends and his family. Like these are the guys he lived with all the time. That takes quite a dark person to be able to do that kind of thing. And then at the end of the movie, we're told that he is actually a really good hero because he sacrificed his own life. And yes, he did it for a good reason. But what I couldn't swallow was that Peter Quill then comes to accept him as his true father, a true father figure. This guy who's abused him his entire life, and Peter Quill just is willing to forgive all of that. I was like, this is not the right message to be sending. I really don't think so.
It went too quick. I think that's what I mean, when the death happened, I keep wondering, like, why should I spoil or not? But like, this is a spoiler. Stop it, Andy. But
Go
like,
ahead. Yeah.
And when he first died, I was initially upset because I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful. And he died. He was born a Ravager, but he died a Mary Poppin. And but then I realized that wait a minute. This all happened within 8-10 minutes, when this should have been a plot, maybe for the third one. Like, because how do you accept? You're right. How do you accept someone as your father figure after everything he's put you through just a 5-minute conversation? That's the thing. It's like, if this had been a TV show and this had happened in the pilot, I'll be like, I'm done with the show. Bye, Felicia. I'm done. But
yeah, well, unfortunately, this has the movie has to have an accelerated pace in its storytelling because it's only a movie. But yeah, it's out of left field, and I think the only reason Peter Quill accepted it is because Ego literally tried to kill him and everybody in the entire universe, and so that made him worse. Yondu is better, but he's still a child abuser. He's still like, they made it pretty obvious that even though Yondu says he was joking about trying to eat Peter took it seriously and was really afraid of him. That's mental abuse right there. Like that. Yeah. It was kind of.
All right, I'm gonna play devil's advocate in this situation.
Go for it. Yeah, do it.
Because in my mind, I was kind of putting pieces together behind the scenes. And yes, you can't put everything on screen, so you can't go back and say, well, this really happened and that really happened, but. I will be the first one to say that as an adult, there are things that happened in my childhood that I remember differently than they actually happened. There are things that I would look back at, in a negative way, that they actually didn't happen in as negative a way as I thought they did when they really occurred. It was how I filtered them in my mind. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
And so I was looking at this based on how they told the story, bridging the first and second films. You always see that Yondu will never let anybody hurt Peter. Never. He won't let anybody hurt Peter, ever. Regardless of what Peter does, he will not let him be hurt. And so I'm looking at that, taking the two pieces as a whole and looking at that and saying the reason why Yondu was behaving the way he was in the first movie is because he got his feelings hurt. Okay? Because he felt like Peter had turned his back on him. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, and when you look at it from that standpoint, you can kind of make that make sense. However, we're not saying Yondu is a perfect person. We're not saying that he's even a great guy. We're just saying that he's not as bad as he was originally thought to be, right? Now, this being said, when you look at what he did in this scenario where he's killing all of these people in this ship with this arrow, he's killing people that spaced maybe 2/3 of his crew. Okay, so he's killing the people that committed mass genocide on everybody else in his ship that stood up for him. Do you see what I'm saying? So in his mind, it's justified.
Right.
You know, he's doing what he feels like is the justified killing. So I can kind of see how that could play itself out in that aspect. Like I said, once again, not saying he's a great guy, not saying that he is the, you know, God's gift to, you know, fathers or whatever, right? But when you look at it in the big picture, I'm seeing it from the standpoint of the reason why Peter could never see that Yondu was doing certain things to protect him is because he always accused Yondu of stealing him from his actual father, not understanding that Yondu was doing it to protect him.
Right, yeah, that was a
You
big
see what
twist.
I'm saying? And so because of that, everything that Peter sees in Yondu is colored in a negative way. So when Yondu tries to toughen him up so that he can learn how to survive because he knows how difficult this galaxy is going to be and knows how dangerous it's going to be, so he has to give him skills to protect himself, he looks at it in the light of Yondu is treating him like garbage. And Yondu is really just trying to toughen him up and teach him how to survive. Do you see what I'm saying? So when you look at it in these ways, I can kind of put the pieces together in my mind to say, okay, the reason why it was played that way and colored that way is because this is the way that Peter viewed it in his mind at the time. And now that he's seen it through a different lens and he realizes what kind of person his actual father really was and the fact that Yondu was trying to keep him protected from him, he sees what Yondu was actually trying to do all along. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but the problem for me with that is the fact that, like, yes, it's easy to see that way when you break it down, like, so much like after the film. But the fact is that these two films have been so heavy on the comedy that it almost overshadows some of the biggest impactful dramatic moments. Like you would not like when you're sitting in the cinema and you're surrounded by 200 people. Oh, how many there are, and you see all this play out. But like because there's so much like joke, drama, joke. Like it gets overshadowed. You don't really notice it, and kind of that's why it seems very rushed. So even though the film, like I looked at the comparative, like this film is actually longer than the first one, and yet it felt like they still couldn't manage to find a way to, like I will say the Nebula and Gamora relationship was the best developed arc throughout the whole thing because they took their time with it. But then with Peter and Yondu, that's so like, oh, FYI, boy, I've always like cared for you, whatever. Oh, FYI, Yondu, you've always been my father figure, and then whatever happens. So it's rushed in a film that it's almost ridiculous. How can you, when you have an extra 20 minutes to play around with in your script and your theater cut, how can you still rush through something like this? But even if you have so much more resources and time now, but that's because they focus so much on the jokes or whatever word they're finding.
Right. I could see that. I do know that James Gunn said that both of the scripts for these movies, or I should say both of the storylines for these movies, were created before the first movie was ever made. I do know that much because when he made the first movie, he knew where he was going with the second movie. He knew what the outcome was going to be at the end of the second movie. And that's one of the reasons I say some of what was in this second movie could have actually been sprinkled into the first movie a little bit, to make it not as self-contained, if that makes sense.
But I think they had to make the first one self-contained because Guardians of the Galaxy was a completely unknown property at the time. They had no idea if it was going to be successful, even though it was a Marvel movie. So I think they had to make that one pretty standalone just because they didn't know if it was going to be getting a second movie. Why don't we move on and talk about Ego? What are your thoughts on that character?
I would say
Space Hasselhoff.
I would say this. He's definitely a much more compelling villain than what the hell was his name? The blue little Kree fanatic, whatever his name was.
Ronan.
Well, Ronan?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. See, that's
Ronan, yeah.
I don't even remember. Who the hell played him? I don't even remember the actor who played him. Who played
That's
Ronan?
because he wasn't fleshed out enough in the first movie.
That's a good question. Let's find out. I'm going to find out. You keep talking.
Yeah, and I will say that Kurt Russell as Ego was far more compelling and interesting than whatever Rona was doing. I don't see that's how badly I remember him, because he was just, oh, you're screaming about something, like go tell Tumblr. They might care more than I care, but I felt this is why I should avoid interviews or whatever, because I felt a little bit misled with what James Gunn was saying. I mean, unless there's a plot twist behind whatever happened in this film, but I kind of felt like we're already done with him. And also, I don't like the fact that we didn't know what the Peter's heritage was. Like, what he was part human and part something else. And I'm like, oh, so he's part God. Yay, the chosen one. How original. Like, Doctor Strange is totally not the chosen one. Captain America is totally not the chosen one in his field. Like, Marvel does that too much. I would have actually been more intrigued if maybe Peter had been part Inhuman, actually, or something. Like something big, but still not too like. I mean, this wasn't complicated, but it was kind of like, this great, so he's basically invincible.
Well, they took the power away from him at the end.
Right. And that's another thing I was sort of talking about, is the fact that, oh great, so now James Gunn really gets to bang into our heads that Peter Quill will only be the only human in this film franchise, because I know this probably we'll talk about this later, but like, I was so pissed that Michael Rosenbaum was not playing Richard Rider. I'm like, no, but he would be so perfect. He would be perfect as Noah, but James Gunn apparently hates humans other than Peter Quill. So it was just I kind of more intriguing villain, but still kind of like, oh, I'm a god with a bit, god complex. And I mean, the battle scenes were great, and kind of seeing the origin or whatever, but then seeing that, oh Lord, he is the definition of a player, because he's been like on every planet. I'm like, I don't know.
Right?
Well, they wanted that parallel between the like father like son kind of thing going on there.
I was just kind of like, I looked at everyone in the field. I'm like, is no one else kind of like half disgusted by this, because this is kind of creepy.
Oh, totally.
Like, I'm not supposed to enjoy whatever it is, but everyone else is. I would just keep my mouth shut till I talk to people. So yes, he's a lot more fun villain, but I kind of felt like I felt misled, and I also was disappointed with that. Oh, that is like God, and Peter is like half Jesus. Great, I don't really care.
Well, and Andy, if you look at it from this standpoint too, though, they picked him for a reason, because he is so charismatic, right? I mean, just about every movie you've ever seen him in, including the Escape movies, he can look like total garbage, and he still has this charisma about him that everybody just falls in love with him as a character, right? And so it almost felt like that you were getting betrayed by the movie makers, because they put somebody so likable in this role, and then he just very nonchalantly comes out with this line of, it really killed me to put that tumor in her head. And I'm thinking, oh my God, how horrible of a person can you actually be to intentionally give someone brain cancer and kill them and make their kid watch?
Oh my God, I completely forgot about that. Okay, I hate that. I completely hate that.
Well, I think
I'm going, oh God,
What a dick! Wait, can we cut on the show?
Sure.
What a dick bag! Jesus. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that. Oh my God.
Well, it was like watching it was like watching David Tennant and Jessica Jones all over again. It was that horrific for me.
What do you mean I raped you? I fucking love that. I mean, Tan, just shut up. Go back to the TARDIS and shut up.
Oh wow.
Oh. I have such a different viewpoint now on this whole film because I'm like, he's a player and he's a psychological murderer. It's wow.
Oh, he's not just psychological murderer. He's murdered every one of his children as well. So we're talking mass genocide of his own children.
Yeah, all in the just so that he can survive. Right? Yeah.
I mean, really?
Oh my god.
Well, I mean,
we need hope again in the universe.
I mean, think about it this way. He's even worse than the Emperor in Star Wars, because even the Emperor in Star Wars would not murder his own kids to gain more power.
Well,
okay?
would someone actually find it attractive enough to have sex with them and have an offspring? Because, I mean, not trying to be shallow or anything, but I'm like, if I saw that squinkly old condom walking towards me, I'm like, no thanks. Okay,
wow.
Clearly, I'm hilarious at night, so good on me. Good on me.
Oh man. Hey, give us your opinion, Curtis.
Wow. Well, my opinion is not as funny.
Just don't hold anything back. Just be sassy about it. Kind of like imagine that you're talking about it on Tumblr. You can say anything you want.
Well, once he came into the movie, I thought I liked all of the scenes that he was in. I agree with Paul. He was quite a charismatic character. They picked the perfect person for that.
Yeah.
And if Peter's, his traits that he exhibits in these movies is hereditary. If it's passed on, like he can't help being this way because of his dad, then I think that's a kind of a neat parallel. he just can't help being a player. Yeah, I don't know.
Most players can't because they don't see anything. Like they don't see anything morally wrong about it. Like but I can just do anyone I want and just leave the next morning.
Well, and we already established that there's this line between hero and villain, and so there's all this ambiguity. I can't speak today.
Ambiguous.
Yeah, it's just ambiguous, the whole thing. But I thought it was great. There is always the big question about whether they were actually going to portray Ego as the giant planet, because in the comics he is just literally that, the giant planet. And
right.
And in all of the trailers and all of the merchandise and all of the articles, it was just he was Ego the person. So I was really happy that they brought that into play.
Yeah.
He's also, Ego is not Peter's dad in the comics. Peter's dad is somebody else. And so it's like, how are they going to make that work and stuff? And the whole God thing was a little unusual, but it was
little G.
Little G, yeah. Right. But it was still. I thought they played it out really well. Ego was the least of my problems. I quite liked his character and his story completely. I thought it was fantastic. The one question I did have.
Go ahead.
The one question I did have was that he called himself a Celestial.
Is that a thing in Marvel?
Oh yeah, in fact, they established what a Celestial was in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. When the Collector is talking about these beings of immense power, they show a Celestial, and he's got this head, and he has a staff that shoots a beam and wipes out a planet or something like that. And the Collector is in this floating city called Nowhere, and Nowhere actually exists inside of the head of a dead Celestial. And they talk about harvesting the spinal fluid and bone marrow and all that kind of stuff, because those are all the parts of the Celestial that exist still. But then now Ego is apparently one of these guys. And in the comics, I'll get a little a little nerdy here for you. In the comics, Ego is considered an elder of the universe. An elder of the universe is a character or a creature who is the last known survivor of its race. And so Ego, is the only Ego out there. There's no other Ego, whatever his race happens to be. But Celestials aren't elders. There are many Celestials, and they can create new Celestials. So that's not exactly the same thing. So I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to accomplish by calling him a Celestial, but they did.
And then, another thing, the way that they executed that thing at the end, where Peter is now back being just a human, it kind of makes the whole thing pointless, because I felt, but wasn't the whole thing that there was something special about him supposed to be this larger part of his character? Now it's like, oh, we got it for like 45 minutes, and now he's back to being a normal human.
I'm guessing that we haven't seen the last of his powers. That'll be a thing that they can pull out whenever they need it. It'll be a handy plot device. It's like, oh, actually, he's got this latent power that he just forgot about or didn't know he had. Ego didn't take away all of it, or that kind of thing. But I still think it would have been cool if he had been like an Inhuman or something. I think it's important for him to not have any powers, because he's surrounded by all of these other guys that do have superhuman strength or different abilities. He is the fish out of water. He's the only human, and we can relate to him because he's telling all these jokes, and nobody else understands his cultural references and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, when Gamora was trying to pronounce David Hasselhoff, I died.
Yeah, that was really.
I'm like, should I pick up IMDb and just like see that? Oh, that's who she meant, because I died. But I'm like, what? What's the like? Is it a politician that I didn't know about?
What did she say? Husseldorf or something? Was that what she said?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. They did well with people not understanding his cultural references. The Mary Poppins line at the end was so funny. Oh,
why can't we get a Mary Poppins reboot with Yondu instead? Like, why are we getting? I mean, like, I would
I'm Mary Poppins, yo.
I will kickstart that film. I will happily I will work on it. I will do anything. I just when that thing happens, I think that's the best comedic joke tied to Drax's "You're beautiful on the inside." Like, oh my god! But the only thing that I'm concerned about with Peter now being a human again, if he gets his power back or not, is just I don't agree with James Gunn's philosophy of Peter Quill should be the only human in the film. Like, that's why we can't have I
think so though, because that makes, when he meets up with the Avengers in Infinity War, that is going to be his first contact with another human since he was a child. That's going to be huge.
Yeah, right. I'm just talking about a future Guardians installment. Being like,
oh yeah,
Guardians free. Wait, I could curse, right? I can curse.
Sure.
I fucking want my Richard Rider. I don't care what he has. It's just I need Noah on live action because he's so fucking cool. And
they'll get there. I mean, that's
they better because that's
there.
I just don't like the philosophy of I like what you're saying, that because Guardians 2 will, after Guardians 2, the next time we'll see Peter will be in Avengers 3. And I guess, is he in Avengers 4 too, or is that just?
I have no idea.
Yeah, but after that, I'm just saying for Guardians installments that he's in, I just want at some point for James Gunn to be open to the idea of introducing, I don't need 600 more humans in the group. I think Noah would be fine. But,
I think they can't help it. I think that's the natural progression of the way the movies work. At some point, they're going to have to put in a companion who understands Peter even better than Gamora does.
Yeah, and it's and the heck, Xandarians are not even technically seen as human, right?
Which one? Who is?
The Xandarians, where,
Oh, the Nova Corps, yeah. They're not, well, I mean, they're just another alien race. They look human, but they are not from Earth.
They're sort of like the Gallifreyans. They look like humans, but they're not.
Okay.
Or
well,
the Kryptonians.
I just want fucking Nova, okay? I don't care. I don't Like, and that's the thing. I guess like if James Gunn is still going on for Guardians 3, like no, I don't want any humans in my film. I'm like, whatever, crush me, kill me, whatever you like, whatever. Like,
Well,
just keep doing it.
I was really surprised that we didn't see any Nova Corps in this movie at all.
Yeah.
But they'll come about. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe even Richard Rider appeared in Infinity War, because the orb has to get its way, because the orb is being held by Nova Corps right now. It has to get its way to the Avengers or to Thanos in some way. So why wouldn't the Nova Corps send somebody along with the orb for safekeeping or to guard it or to help out or whatever? And
they won't send Nova Prime. Like, she's like, she's too valuable.
For sure. No, absolutely not.
That's a perfect way to introduce him that way.
Yep.
And or if they want to just put him on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I will enjoy him happily there. Like, I just,
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't really dealt with space aliens yet, have they?
Well, the Kree.
A little.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're right. There was a Kree in.
Yeah.
Well, no, just one. But there were 2 living Krees that came to Earth to collect Inhumans. Because they saw that like, we can't just let you guys just live around, and then Daisy just like, I'm quick and.
That's right. I remember that now. Yeah, I mean, that's possible for sure.
Not only that, the technology that was used to bring Coulson back was actually Kree technology,
right?
Using Kree biology. So yeah, there's that too.
That's true. Yeah, we have lots of connections.
Yeah. But,
yeah, I'm waiting.
Bless the Lord of James Gunn, the almighty James Gunn approved of that. Like, Okay, I love James Gunn. I just find this comment about, I don't want any humans other than Peter Quill to be in my. I'm like, whatever.
You're gonna have to get over that.
Hey, look at it this way. He's all about diversity, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you gotta represent all the alien races.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say this about Peter. This is just my personal opinion, but I want to see if you guys noticed it too. Is it just me, or does it feel like that this is being played in such a way as so that they're kind of almost giving you a bait and switch type situation? What I mean by that is everybody looks at Groot as being the heart of the team, right? Because, he's the one that everybody falls in love with, the whole cutesy thing or whatever. But really and truly, at the end of the day, it's really Peter that's the heart of the team. Because when you look at it, I mean, you think about this, they had every single opportunity, especially in this last film, to leave him behind, and not one single member of that team, except for Rocket, was willing to do that. And the only reason that Rocket was willing to do that is because he knew that that was what Peter would have wanted him to do.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I thought David was adorable and everything, but I'm like, but Peter is the one that really brought everyone together. I mean, that's why, Groot and Rocket were after Peter in the first one. Gamora was after him in the first one. Drax just tagged along. And so that's no respect to Drax, because Drax is my baby. I love Drax. I want to be Drax the Destroyer. But it was just, you're right. He is that. Why do people find it so funny when I say that?
I want to see Andy cosplay as Drax.
Do you, Andy? Andy, do you have sensitive nipples?
Moving on. I'm not confirming or denying. But yeah, Peter is the part of the team, and so I think he's the one to kind of ground everyone in some ways. Of bringing some, he brings the human perspective to the group of kind of, no guys, we can't just say, oh, F the universe, who cares? Like, no, there's people living in this universe. There's all these planets that we have to consider. We can't just be like, whatever.
Let's keep on going. We can just touch on the other new character in this movie, who is Mantis. Does anyone have any comments on Mantis?
She's so precious. She needs to be protected. But
I know, right?
I think there were times where they went a little bit too far with her in terms of like almost making her like a doormat, in terms of how much they were ripping on her. Like I mean, Drax. Like again, because he's Drax, so I get it. But it's kind of like, is this all we're getting of her. That I mean, we saw how powerful she is, and I think she was a great addition to the film. But kind of like, please remember that this is a creature with feelings. That if we can predict all these other characters, with real human aspect, even though some of them are aliens, then let's remember to do it for her too. But I love that her breakout moment at the end, where she kind of like went against ego and used her powers, and we don't even know if that's we may have only touched a surface of her power. We may actually see her become even more powerful in the next
She's
one.
got many, many powers in the comics that they didn't even touch on at all.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Well, I mean, you think about this. You get her in the same room with I hate when I go blank like that. In Infinity Wars, you let her get in the same room with
Thanos. Iron Man.
Excuse me?
Spider-Man.
No. Gamora's father. I hate it when I go blank like that.
Thanos.
Thanos.
Why did I say on May? Never mind. Sorry. Never mind.
I don't. Why do I go blank like that? I don't know why I go blank like that, because I know exactly who I'm talking about, and then the name just leaves me as soon as it's about to come out of my mouth. No, you let her get in the same room with Thanos. She could literally be the only person that could take him out. If you think about it, if she could touch him and put him to sleep. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep, she could be very valuable.
I mean, just that one power alone, if you could get her in enough contact with him to do that, they could technically take him out at that point. So that's a pretty good power,
Oh, I guess if the stones are making him invincible, I mean, okay. So what are the stones? There's the Mind Stone, the Time Stone.
There's the reality. There's
the reality
power.
Power.
And you said space, time, reality, power, mind. That's 5, right?
Yeah, that's 5.
And there's the 6th one that we haven't seen yet, which
we haven't seen it yet? Oh my god.
Yeah, what is the last one?
So one of these films is still going to be about
isn't there the Life Stone? If I'm not mistaken.
Life? I don't think life.
That would be
maybe I'm
wrong as hell.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Hell, why don't we just look this up?
I am looking it up right now. Oh, Soul. Okay, so the let's see.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. The Soul Stone.
That's the one that Vision has on his forehead. The one that Loki. No, that was the Mind.
Oh God, I hate these stones. I'm so.
All right.
No,
Vision has to have the Soul Stone because it brought him to life.
Well, it didn't bring him to life. It I thought Iron Man and a combination of like Thor's thunder brought him to life or something like that. But it gave him a mind because it's
it made him a sentient being, which then in turn gives him a life, sort of like number 5 from Short Circuit.
So soul, time, space, mind, reality, and power.
Okay, yeah. Let's see here.
Because in the comics, even though he's synthetic, he's considered a life form, correct?
Right. Yes, he is. So yeah, the Mind Stone is the one that Vision has. The Space Stone is the Tesseract, because that's the one that can travel, like that can teleport and that kind of thing.
Right.
So the Power Stone is still missing. No, the Power Stone was
the Power Stone is the purple one that was in the orb. That was power. The
reality has been introduced.
Stone, reality was the ether from Thor 2, which is now being held by the Asgardians. And the Time Stone is the green one that's the Eye of Agamotto that Doctor Strange has.
So which one is
correct?
It's a Soul Stone.
The Soul Stone is the last one that we're missing. So we have to find it eventually. It might not even show up until Avengers 3. Maybe Thanos already has it.
I would prefer if it doesn't show up in any of the other films leading up to Avengers 3, because I'm kind of like, I'm so exhausted when these stones become the central storytelling of all these films. Like, I'm like
it's been a great device to tie them all together. It's been a really great device, but they haven't focused on. like yes, the Eye of Agamotto was an important central part in solving the issue in Doctor Strange, but it wasn't because it was a time stone. It's because it was a plot device. They didn't focus on it. You didn't even know it was an Infinity Stone till the very end. And like
Right.
Iron Man 2 and 3 didn't have Infinity Stones, and Captain America 2 and 3 didn't have Infinity Stones, and Guardians 2 didn't have an Infinity Stone. So there are plenty of Marvel movies that haven't had that as the focus.
However, Guardians 2 did have the Watchers.
True. Yeah. Okay. So why don't we get into? Let's move
Perfect
into
segue.
talking about some of the Easter eggs.
Yeah, I love Easter eggs.
Yep. Let's move on. We can start with the Watchers. That was really cool. I couldn't believe that they showed up. Now,
Although
And brought them in with Stan.
I almost, when that happened, the only word I was about to shout in the whole theater was Fox. Wait, isn't this Fox? Isn't this Fox? What's going on? Who owns who?
right? Yeah.
I'd be excited, but I was like, Fox.
I'm guessing that the Watchers aren't part of the Fantastic Four deal then. But yeah, there's always been this fan theory that Stan Lee is a Watcher because he shows up at all of these, because in the comics, the Watchers show up in pivotal moments in the history of any race. And so, like when Galactus came to Earth for the very first time, the Watchers were there watching. They just observe. That's all they do. They don't say, they don't get involved, they just watch. And so that's what Stan Lee does. He's in every movie, and every movie has this very pivotal moment in Earth history. And Stan Lee is there watching and observing and not really getting involved, but he's always there. So there is that fan theory that he is a Watcher, and then so he's now shown amongst all these Watchers, and he makes a reference to being a FedEx delivery guy, which he was at the end of, was it Avengers 2, I think, or maybe it was Civil War. I can't remember. But he was wearing a spacesuit, so he's not an actual Watcher. He's not an alien. I don't know.
Well, now he could be working for the Watchers, though. He could be like, some
Their
type
intern.
of
Intern.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say some type of a human, tool that they've put out there to do, kind of research for them or whatever, which would explain why he was sitting there talking to them in the suit.
Right. Telling him all the news. Any other Easter eggs you want to bring about?
I'm not good with Easter eggs when it comes to Marvel films. So, like, what Easter eggs were there?
Let's see. There were little small things like Howard the Duck made another appearance. Did you catch him?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Saw him at
Yes.
the end of the first movie, and he appears in the second. Everyone's waiting for him to get his own feature film. That would be fantastic.
I actually think that would be really fun to see.
I think so too. He's a great character.
I would rather have him I would rather give him his own like little mini series on Netflix rather than give him like a full feature film.
A little web series. Well, to test the water for sure. Yeah.
Making him an Agent of Shield defender.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my god, Matt Murdock would be missing out so much. He's like, guys, why are you guys laughing so much? He's like, you wouldn't understand. Like, what? Is it something about his face? Like, oh, it's about his everything.
His voice is coming really low. He must be a short guy.
You're getting warmer.
Of course, the next question would be, what would they actually do with the storyline, for that character? Because all we've seen him do so far is sit and drink martinis and stuff. So, what does he actually do? What,
I don't. That's why I kind of like. It's fun. It's fun if you look at tongue in cheek. But I'm like, guys, why are you guys like loving Howard the Duck? But he's not really. He's lame. I'm sorry.
Well, he is he's a cigar chomping, rude, obnoxious, lady killer kind of guy, right? In the comics he goes to Earth because he's from an alien race that all looks like ducks, and so he goes to Earth and he's a fish out of water. It's a comedy book.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be funny.
To believe that there's a public
Andy?
out there. I have I have to Google this. I'm like, no, I refuse to believe that
Andy,
a publisher
okay.
thinks that telling alien species that looks like ducks. No,
Oh, come on.
And
That's
Andy,
where you draw the line about
Dark-
believability in these films.
Darkwing Duck is a better story than whatever Howard the Duck.
Darkwing Duck could be from the planet that Howard the Duck is from.
okay,
Howard
okay,
Howard
Andy,
Duck could be Darkwing Duck.
Andy,
I think Michael would kill me if he heard me say that.
Andy,
Mhm.
Andy,
Mhm.
I'm not going to confirm or deny whether or not it's a good film, but there is a movie
I
released
know.
by Lucasfilm
I've seen
of
it.
Howard the Duck.
I saw it. I ran out of the room when I saw duck text. Whose idea was it, hey, we're doing a children's film, so let's show duck text.
Well, to be honest, the character that they have in the Howard the Duck movie is nothing like the Howard the Duck from the comics. So
I
there's that.
figured.
Yeah, do yourself a favor and check out the comics. They're really funny. They're very well done. There's a new one that's written, I think, by Chip Zdarsky, and it's fantastic. So, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the cameos. Any other cameos you can think of, Paul? The planets, the couple of planets that they go to are actual planets from the comics as well. In fact, the one that they crash land on at the very beginning, where Eagle meets them for the very first time, that is I can't remember the name of the planet, but the Hulk, it first appears in a Hulk comic, and people are speculating that possibly maybe that is the same planet that Thor 3 is going to take place on. He's just in a different side of the planet.
We saw Cosmo for a second, right?
We did see Cosmo for a brief second. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I'm distracted. There's a lot of crying going on in my house. I don't know if you can hear right now.
Well, they heard about the horrible Howard Duck movie. Like, no, don't make me.
Now this isn't an Easter egg.
You guys keep on going for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
This isn't an Easter egg, but this is a little bit of attention to detail that I liked in this movie. I noticed that when they were being chased at the beginning of the movie, when they stole the batteries, and they had to go through the portal, the ship had some smoke coming off of it, but it was still in working condition. It was still managing to fly, but as soon as they hit that portal and hit the oxygenated atmosphere, the entire ship burst into flames, and that's when they lost control of the ship. Did you notice that?
No.
That little attention to detail. They were having difficulty in space flying the ship, but it was still functioning enough that they could fly it, and it had smoke and stuff coming off of it, and it was broken into some pieces or whatever. But as soon as they went through the portal into that oxygenated atmosphere, the entire ship burst into flames, and they lost complete and total control of the ship at that moment. I thought that was a nice little attention to detail thing there.
Yeah, that is cool.
I'm trying to think of other Easter eggs, and I'm not able to think of anything at the moment.
Apparently, Miley Cyrus
other than the
somehow got into the movie.
David Hasselhoff thing.
Yeah, Miley Cyrus was at the end. So we can talk about those characters for a little bit. At the very end, Sylvester Stallone and all of the characters that come to Yondu's funeral are Guardians of the Galaxy as well. So there is an iteration of the Guardians of the Galaxy from the 80s. Sorry, I'll go back. When Guardians of the Galaxy first appeared in the 60s, it was made up of just 4 characters, and Yondu was one of them, and Charlie 27, who was played by Ving Rhames in this movie, was one of them, and who else was there?
Wasn't Rob Zombie in this film?
Rob Zombie was one of the Ravagers, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know if you actually got to see a good look at him. But
no, because Taserface kept coming in the way. I'm like,
yeah.
He's what a dumb, ugly name.
But anyway, the Guardians of the Galaxy were first when they first appeared. They're in the year 3000. It took place in the future, and it wasn't until I think around 2001 or something like that they actually created the Guardians that we see in this movie that took place in present day. So all of those other characters, Sylvester Stallone's character is a character called Starhawk, and he is the leader of this other version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So all of those people, Michael Rosenbaum's character of Martin X, Ving Rhames playing Charlie 27, Michelle Yeoh as Alita, and Miley Cyrus as Mainframe. All of those characters are other Guardians, and I wonder if after this current trilogy is going on, if they're going to focus on a different team of Guardians.
Someone in the comments section, let me see, because I kept the comments open just to see what people were saying. Phyllis Superman says they're changing up the cast after the third Guardians movie. So, and I think I've seen somewhere before, some article about it before, where I think Gunn may have indicated that we might see a completely different team after the third Guardians film.
Which would be fine. I would be happy with that. And especially, like, just looking at the casting, you're not going to cast Sylvester Stallone to just have two lines in a movie. And then you look at all these other characters, like Michael Rosenbaum and Michelle Yeoh, and Ving Rhames. Like, these are not unknown actors, right?
Exactly.
They're not A-list, but they're not unknown. And you're not, like, it would make sense to me if if these are the people that we're going to see. People are speculating that there are going to be heavy casualties in the Infinity War storyline, and maybe a lot of the Guardians bite the dust. So we will be forced to see new people.
Yeah,
that would also explain why Yondu was originally in their group to start with. You know?
The other thing that they could do is because this original Guardians wasn't in the future. It existed before. They weren't called the Guardians, I guess, but they existed before. So we could actually go back in time and get a prequel series where Yondu is still alive and is with this team of people here.
Right.
I would be down for that. I think it would be horrible if all of the Guardians died in Avengers 3. I think that I definitely don't want to see Gamora die just because we have so few female badass ladies in the films. It's amazing that the TV shows, all the Marvel TV has done a better job with the female representation than most of the Marvel films. So I don't want her to die, and I think Groot is still growing up. So I'm like, no, don't kill a teenage Groot.
Well, he'll be fully grown. I mean, if this indeed a 4-year gap, I'm sure that the tree will grow faster than a human grows.
So yes, so Guardians 2, it takes place in 2015 then, basically.
Yeah, it doesn't follow because all of these Marvel movies have been kind of moving in real time, but this one is not.
Actually, it's 2014 because the opening of this movie takes place in 1980, and then it says 34 years later, so it's 2014
Right. Oh, so okay. I thought the first one was in 2014.
Yeah.
This one was like 8 months later.
Yeah. This takes place 6 or 8 months later, but it's supposed to be in the same year. So,
damn.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I can't think of any other Easter eggs that I remember. The 5 post-credit scenes was interesting. If there was an Easter egg.
Sure. Yeah. Why don't we talk? We've already mentioned.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get into the post-credit scenes, give me your opinions on Scrotum Head.
Taser face.
Oh. I would love to put him in a room with Oliver Queen from Arrow and just see what happens. Just lock the key, throw it away, and be like, and go. And I thought he
was really funny. I found that the writing in general for all of their humor was based on the fact that okay, Paul, you gotta calm down. You gotta
I'm sorry. The look on your face when I said it just made me laugh even more. I'm sorry.
Like, what? What are you talking about?
Oh.
We will play the tape after. We play the tape and we will see what happens. We talk about the writing of the characters and the humor.
Yeah, the humor, the way that all of their humor seemed to, it was all based on these people being stupid funny. Like the humor was based on them being unintelligent. Sorry, that's there wasn't really any other humor than that. And so Taserface was another one of these characters where he was really funny, but it was just because he was stupid. And it's like, yeah, well, we already got like Mantis is a stupid funny character, Drax is a stupid funny character, and actually Rocket's not a stupid funny character. He was an obnoxious funny character, so that was different.
The way I looked at Mantis and Drax was they're not exactly stupid funny, they're more ignorant funny. You know, they're just unlearned, you know. But it's still hilarious to watch them not knowing anything about what you're talking about.
For sure. On the inside, I'm like, oh, their marriage is going to be so complicated because I'm already shipping them. They're going to end up together. They're going to have, like, the children will come out of this.
The thing, though, that I thought was the funniest about Taserface is the fact that he didn't look any different after he was set on fire than he did before he was set on fire. He literally
even the firefighting, like, you don't want to burn this. We're too good for that.
Oh wow.
So Curtis, you were talking about the writing of the characters and the humor.
Well, there's no more than that. I mean, Taser, he was just there for laughs, right?
Yeah.
Paul's favorite character, I can tell.
Yeah,
well, my favorite throwaway character. Let me put it that way.
Paul wants a Taserface spin-off series.
Oh Lord, no! Let's not wait. Like,
no. What I want to see.
Hold on.
What I want to see is I want to see a crossover universe where Taserface gets taken out by Lobo.
You know what makes what's so sad is that Taserface looks Lobo smart in comparison.
He does.
Oh
boy. Okay, let's keep on going. Post-credit scene.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you want to talk about?
Okay, I gotta pull them up because James Gunn, ambitious enough, but please don't put in 5 post-credit scenes next time. One of my friends, he was being like, it almost tortured him to death because he needed to pee so badly. But I was like, no, there's one more. He's like, are we done now? No, there's one more. And then it's like, oh, I'm like, I want to keep going. Oh, there's one more. There's just
well, didn't you buy a drink? You had a cup there. Come on.
So there were kids around. I don't really want to
My buddy pulled up the app. He's got an app called Run Pee, which tells you when to go to the bathroom in the middle of the movie if you need to go. Because that way.
How do you determine that? You just like drop a piece of your DNA on your phone, like. Okay, I don't want to know. No, don't tell me.
No. They let you know the boring part in the movie that you can leave 5 or 10 minutes and come back and be fine.
Yeah, so that you don't miss anything important.
Like the big battle when they're fighting Ego. That lasted for a long time.
He pulls it up to see what it says about post-credit scenes, and it literally says, it's a Marvel movie. Don't get up until the lights come on.
It's good advice. Well, okay. So let's
how about the one scene where they hint about Adam Warlock?
Yeah, that's the one we haven't really talked about yet, because we have mentioned already Stan Lee, because that was one of them. Mm-hmm. Teenage Groot was another. Seeing the other Guardians kind of get the band back together, that was another one. And Adam Warlock was one, and then there was one more. What was the last one? Oh, the last one was the guy trying out the fin and shooting Drax by accident.
Which was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. So most of them were like not really consequential, but yeah, the one we haven't really talked about, and the alien race we haven't really talked about at all, is the Sovereign. Adam Warlock. They're actually going to bring him in. There was a lot of questions whether he was going to be part of this story or not, because he plays a big role in the Infinity Gauntlet story in the comics.
Yeah, I mean, James Gunn he said in an interview he was gonna, he originally planned to have Adam Warlock in the film, but he decided to cut him out and save for the third one, which I think was probably the best decision. I don't know much about Adam Warlock. Is he good, evil, complex?
A little bit of both. So he is he was created. I think he's actually created on Earth, not by an alien species, but he's created to be the perfect human, like to be the ultimate perfect human being. In the comics, he's originally just called Him. He doesn't even have a name because Him represents exactly that. It's just that's the ultimate form of a human being. So, good. He's supposed to be very good, and so he has there is a lot of this Messiah kind of complex or Messiah parallels, I guess you could say, in the writing of his character. And then there's also a female version, which is the leader of the Sovereign in this movie. That's not exactly how it plays out in the comics, but she's kind of the perfect female. So it makes sense that she's also involved in his creation. But yeah, he eventually gets the soul gem because he is an advanced enough person that he can have the soul gem and not have it affect him. So I guess
he has it in his forehead, just like Vision, right?
He has it on his forehead, exactly.
Yeah.
So in this universe, he's not created by Aisha. She just got a hold of the cocoon that he was being placed in.
So I thought that she said something about creating something because she gives him a name at the end. She calls him Adam.
But then what the hell is a cocoon then?
Well, it's just the stasis pod or the incubator, or I guess, or something like that, where he's being formed or developed.
And I get the impression he's going to come out as an adult.
Yeah,
as
for
opposed to, or at least a very, higher age teen at the very least,
No, I think he'll be a full adult. Yeah, it'll be. So, remind me of the timeline here. Avengers 3 comes out before Guardians 3 does.
Oh yeah, because
Avengers is next year, right?
Yeah, because next come up is Spider-Man, then 4, then Avengers.
Okay. No, Black Panther's before.
No, I think they pushed that back.
Oh, really?
There's how could they fit in Black Panther between?
I thought Black Panther was going to be a spring release.
Oh, let me. I will. You guys keep talking. I will look.
Okay, you look it up. But yeah, I
know.
If
Ragnarok comes out in October, right?
No,
yeah.
November.
Like it comes out in the fall, though. Yeah. But okay. If they're
my bad. Black Panther is February. It's February. Sorry, I kept thinking that you got pushed back. So yes, it's Spider-Man, 4, Black Panther, and then Avengers.
Because Captain America is hiding out in Wakanda right now, so they need to resolve that plot line before Avengers. They can't push that really.
He's hiding there? I thought it was just Bucky that was hiding there.
I think Bucky and Captain America are both hiding out there. I think Captain America, because he is no longer with the Avengers, right? He's after Civil War, he took off.
There's really no Avengers anymore.
Really no Avengers. I figure that he's just kind of hanging out there for the time being. He's kind of seeking refuge.
Does that mean he's going to be in Black Panther, maybe?
I think maybe, at least for a little bit. I don't know.
I would assume that he's going to at least have some cameo in it,
Yeah, I think they would need to. No one knows anything about Black Panther, so they need to have a Captain America there to help sell the movie. That's my guess.
Well, actually, they not only need that, because we got very little of the background and everything in the last Captain America movie. So somebody that's an outsider needs to be in that film for them to be able to tell things for the audience. You see what I'm saying?
I guess so, yeah.
Isn't that who
someone has
Andy character will be?
What did you say, Andy?
Isn't that what Andy Serkis's character is supposedly going to serve as?
Well, I think Andy Serkis's character is going to be the villain, so I don't know how much they're going to actually sit around and talk.
I just don't know if I like the idea of having. I mean, I'm not going to make this a whole race thing, whatever. But it's kind of like for our first African American led superhero film. I don't feel like we need to. It almost feels like we have to use Cap as a crutch when Black Panther will be able to do just fine without him. Both as a film and as a character. So like a cameo is cool. That's fine. But I'm like, That was not how I read that scene. I'm like,
Well,
wait, he's in Wakanda?
Yeah, I don't know.
well, I mean,
I read it that way, but I don't know. I might have read it the wrong way.
No, I
you
mean,
think about it
you
this
might
way
be.
too, though. When they did the second Captain America movie, it was like, okay, we still don't have enough faith in this character for him to do it all by himself, so we're going to throw Black Widow in here. You know, is kind of the way that came off. You know, but that movie sold that character to the point where, you know, they actually didn't need Black Widow in that movie to pull that off. You know.
I think that
Yeah.
was her best movie, though. I think Black Widow was. I mean, Captain America, so, the Winter Soldier. That's Black Widow's best film.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just telling you that's sort of how it felt like they were selling the film. You know.
I thought it was natural because he was working with Shield. I felt that's why it was natural that she would be there. It was weird Hawkeye wasn't there, but I know we're getting off track,
Yeah.
so I
What Spoilercast is this anyway?
But yeah, no, we were talking about Adam Warlock. I mean, I'm looking forward to see because I know so many fans have been hyped for Adam Warlock, and like, I mean, I don't know anything about him. Like, I've never read a comic with him, so I definitely want to see where he fits in within Guardians 3, if that's even the film where he's going to appear in. It would be weird if he shows up in Infinity War because I'm like, we wouldn't that be a better character to serve in all in 3? But
Well, the thing is that he is the one who eventually gets the gauntlet and all of the stones in the comics. So he plays a very, very big role, like, in the Infinity War story. So if they're going to bring him in at this stage, I would imagine they'd have to put him in, unless Infinity War is the beginning of the Thanos story, and then Avengers 4 is the conclusion. In that case, maybe they don't bring Adam Warlock in, and then he does make an appearance in Guardians 3, and then they do Avengers 4 or something like that. I don't know.
From what I understood, the actual story of Infinity War was supposed to span 2 films, is it not?
It was originally, but they've since stopped calling Avengers 4 Infinity War Part 2.
But yeah, they're filming it back to back. That's interesting.
Okay. I mean, they have a big plan, but who knows what it means.
If only there was a way we could get into Kevin Feige's head and just be like, what are you storing? I mean, I have so many questions with Kevin Feige about just television when it ought to be a company. I'm like, no, you do you when it comes to Infinity War and whatever. But now about these TV, I feel we keep coming back to these TV crossovers that we need to do with the films. So, yeah, but I mean, it's strange how they stopped calling it. I mean, was it true that the Avengers 4 is being called Infinity Gauntlet?
No.
So
Oh, is it? I don't know. I haven't heard that they've.
I saw her say something about the title, and then like everyone like, oh my god, it's a game or something.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I could be no wait. I think Gunn debunked it or something like that. Because Kevin Feige said something about the reason we can't reveal the title of Avengers 4 is because it's a spoiler.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay, so over here in my time zone, it's dinner time, so I need to wrap things up and get some food for my kids. So, any last thoughts?
Solid film, and definitely think there's some issues with it in terms of the pacing and maybe too much jokes to the point where some of these amazing dramatic performances are not spotted as well. You probably have to go back and see the film to kind of see those big dramatic serious moments, because one thing I loved about this film was that there were stakes. I kept saying after I saw Suicide Squad, and I'm like, well, Suicide Squad is a little bit better than Guardians because at least there are stakes in Suicide Squad. There wasn't really in Guardians. But in Guardians there were stakes this time. We lost someone really beloved. Yeah, I mean, Drag to Destroy is my bae. I will watch a trilogy with him and a TV show about him, because he's just so freaking funny. But yeah, I mean, overall, I was pleased with the film, and I think it's really solid with just some flaws, which is fine. Marvel films can also be flawed. It's not just DC or Fox Marvel films. It's Marvel can be flawed, and something it's good. Because not everything is perfect.
Paul, final thoughts?
overall, I love this movie. I love the fact that they weren't afraid to go a little bit outside the box when it came to the humor and things of that nature. Was there a little bit too much of it in places? Possibly, but I think that's kind of a taste thing, you know. At the same time, I think one of the bigger hangups that I had with the movie was the initial introduction of Ego. And what I mean by that is he just appears kind of space surfing on the top of this ship, you know. And so, I'm
cool.
looking, I'm looking at that. Yeah, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, you know, that was really, really random way to bring in that character. You know, it seemed like there would be a better way of doing that. And then the more that I thought about it, I was like, but there's a lot of older Marvel comics that introduce characters in that exact same type of way, you know? And so I kind of get that they were going with more of an old school Marvel vibe for that. But at the same time, because it was such an integral character and everything, I kind of wanted it to be a little bit, you know, more, I guess, real world kind of in the way that they brought him into the story.
Right.
So, but that's one of the things that I talk about, what I was talking about earlier when I said that you can kind of see some cracks in it, at least in my point of view. But overall, total package, I love the movie. I thought it was great. Should there have been some aspects of this movie that were sprinkled into the first movie that would have left it more open to tell the actual story of this movie? Yes, I think so. But, you know, that's something that they probably weren't allowed to do because they had to make it such a standalone film. And so I can kind of get that. And that would, of course, given them the opportunity to have either expanded upon the actual story of this movie or have cut down a little bit of the time on it, one or the other. But I don't have a lot of complaints with this movie overall. I just feel like that, you know, they could have maybe tightened it up a little in the first half, maybe just a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I voiced my hangups about this movie earlier, so you can go back and listen to that. And you know, I enjoyed a lot of it. I did laugh at all of the jokes because they were funny, and maybe it was a little too much and stuff. I want to see what it's like second or third viewing. So when it comes to Netflix, I'll check it out, and I could watch them back to back, even if they're supposed to be kind of one film, and see how that works. But not my favorite Marvel movie, but by far not the worst. I liked it more than I liked Man of Steel. So there we go.
I just saw Andy's reaction to
he
that.
He just rolled his eyes. I did. Yep, I went there.
All right.
Oh, wow.
You Marvel fans live with your humor and your sass and your fakeless films and whatever. I'm kidding.
Hey, I love DC films. The original Christopher Reeve ones are fantastic.
We're talking about DC Extended Universe. Those films are over, I guess you can say that. It's like, you know, yes, they were great, but now we're putting on the present, you know, continuity that exists.
Right. The present continuity I'm not quite on board with yet. We'll see what Wonder Woman brings. I have hope for that one. But that's another
Wonder
story.
Woman can save this franchise.
I'm hoping that Wonder Woman is the hero that all DC fans need right now. But
what wonderful!
Not the one they deserve, but the one they need.
Anyway, this is a conversation for another time. Let's not get into that right now. Anyway, let's sign off. Say goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
You guys, it's ridiculous. Stop.